Today is a lower energy day for me, and despite that, I decided to go ahead on and take my daughter as planned to the store so that she could have her lemonade stand. Lemonade stand summer 2026, right? And at the store, and as I was seeing her doing some of her business planning, I was just noticing that she was just racking up cost. And I was trying to help her be mindful, trying to help my little budding entrepreneur be able to take a look at cost and profit, and but still at the place of she's 12, be able to make some of those decisions herself. And so we get to the store and she doesn't have enough money. And all of a sudden, I'm at a really hard point in parenting where I have to decide, do I go in and do I rescue her? Or do I allow her to stand as a young lady and to be able to make some of those mistakes while also managing somewhat of a moderate flare and feeling really tired? So I'm going to get into that today. Welcome back. I'm Virginia. I'm a licensed mental health therapist, and I was recently diagnosed with 2 autoimmune disorders. And so I'm just trying to navigate life essentially with a brand new body, in the sense of not brand new in the sense of everything works the best, but brand new in the sense of I am having to relearn it and relearning how I show up in all areas of my life. So, as I said before, I got up this morning and I was just a little tired, a little achy. I've been working on my back. It was kind of inflamed and I didn't really know why. But as I was getting prepared for this video, I realized, oh, yeah, that's right. My husband and I had an intense discussion a couple of days ago. And so I think my body is still pretty flared up from that. So you can literally do all of the quote unquote right things in terms of your exercise, your meds, any sorts of supplements that you need, your rest, meditation. You can literally do all the quote unquote things right, and flares still happen. If they happen to me, they're going to happen to everybody. And so I'm not immune to that process. So, anyways, I'm really was taking care of my body today and this morning, even more so. But I really promised my youngest child that I was going to take her to go to the store, and I did set some Spoonie limits. If you're not familiar with Spoonie language, I do have a video on the spoon theory. I'm going to try to remind myself to put that down in the description box below, just in case if you're not familiar with that language. So, but I set some Spoonie limits ahead of time, just in the sense of, hey, we can go to one store, and that's about all I've got in me, because this is a low energy day for me, so that I can get prepared to go to work the next day and be able to work and feel like focused and all the things that I need to do and accomplish in the day. So I really want to do this with you, do this for you, but I need this to be a lower energy day. I don't need to be driving all around Pensacola, Florida to get all the things that you need. So she nailed it down and was like, okay, got it down to one store. And as I was looking at her list and I was realizing how much money she was spending, I was like, okay, look, okay, I know we're going to go to the grocery store, but I'll also just, since there's a dollar store nearby, I'll let you go into the dollar store. So that was the decision that I made, just in terms of boundary. And I told her, you need to make sure that you're tracking your expenses, write them down. As a young entrepreneur, these are things that you're going to need to know in terms of how you're making your money and what works best for you. So she said, okay, not a problem. Again, she's 12. So I'm going to trust her. I'm going to make sure that I give her that respect as a young lady. Because I remember growing up as a young lady and wanting to have respect, wanting grown-ups to be able to trust me and to trust that I can make the right decisions for me. And so that's kind of was my motto this morning, was keep it lower energy, trust my child, support my child. That's kind of where I was living at this morning. So I had an acupuncture appointment, which definitely helped with some of the tension that I was feeling. And I just felt like my energy just kept kind of going down this morning. And I think maybe part of that was the flare, but I also think part of that was I didn't get my electrolytes in like I normally would have with my water this morning because I knew I had to lay down on the bed for my acupuncture appointment. So you got to make the best choices that you can. And so I was already feeling somewhat tired. I knew that I needed to be there to support my child. I'm watching her rack up cost just in terms of all these things that she needs to make it the best, the biggest, the most spectacular lemonade stand slash yard sale. So, and I want to support her in that. So we went to the dollar store and then we went to the grocery store. And at the grocery store, we were just looking at prices. And I was reminding her, baby, double check how much you're spending. Make sure you keep a tally in your head about how much you're spending and how much you have in your wallet. Because again, I'm trying to teach some financial literacy here. I'm trying to let them know how far a dollar goes. These are some things that I want my children to have well established before they're 18-year-olds. Know how to save money. Know how much money you need to have in your savings account. So again, these are just things that I'm trying to make sure that they have a lot of good practice with. And so we get all the way to the line to go check out. We're in the line and my youngest child is calling me over closer to her. And I said, I'm good. I went and got one thing for my dog at the grocery store. And so I stayed outside the lines and just stayed kind of in front of the line so that she could see me. I'm right there for her. I'm there to support her. But I also am trying to trust her as a young lady to be able to make the best decisions for her as a young lady and as a young entrepreneur to make those best decisions for herself. So she gets to the line and I can't quite hear what the total is. I don't quite know how much money she has, but I know she's been spending quite a bit. And she's calling me over, and I'm like, well, if you don't have enough money, there might be some things you need to put back. And so she's making the decision, and I think she puts one thing back, and then I think maybe she gets to a place where she's a little frozen just in terms of, I think this is probably the first time. And she's gone to the store with me multiple times. She's gone to the store with my parents and with my husband, definitely for sure, and grandparents. Like she's gone to the store multiple times and paid for things. But I think this is probably the first time that she didn't have enough money for the items. She put a couple things back and still didn't have enough money. And so I was at a place where I had to make a choice of already being in a lower energy place and trying to think about how do I need to use my energy, but how also can I show up to best support my kid and to be a parent. And so in that moment, what I chose to do is I chose to just to trust her decision making. And there was an older man that was behind her, and the older man said, well, how much do you need, baby? And, the cashier tells her, okay, this is, how much she needs. And so the older man, he was a very thin older man. He says, I'll take care of it. And so he pays for it. I think it was like a couple of dollars. That was the difference. And so, but he pays for it. And what ends up happening next is we start walking out the store, and my daughter is so upset with me. She's like, I didn't have enough money. Why didn't you come rescue me? You just left me up there. And my response to her was, baby, I didn't just leave you up there. Usually I would give you money and let you go in the store by yourself, but I came in with you because I knew that you would need a little bit more support today. And so, but she started to cry a little bit. She's like, that man didn't have anything. He looks like he didn't have much of anything, and he gave his money for me. And so I said, hey, let's just hold on just a second. I want us to get to the car real quick, and then we'll go to all the details of all the things. And so we get to the car, and she's fighting back tears. And we get in the car, get buckled in, and she just starts bawling. And she's like, I felt so humiliated. She said, I didn't have enough money, and you just left me there. Y'all, as a parent, that really just, it tugged my heartstrings in so many ways, because I'm thinking to myself that, okay, you know, as a parent, we make a lot of choices for our kids. And we try to make choices for them, not only for the right here and the right now in terms of the short game of their comfort, things that they need, but also for the long game in terms of what is going to help build the best character in my child, what is going to be supportive enough in the moment, but also be good enough for later on in life that they're going to look back and wish that I had did this. And so I just kind of held her hand and I let her cry and I said, "Hey, baby," I said, "I get that." And she's like, "He looked like he didn't have anything." And I said, "Yeah, he didn't look like he had much." And she's like, "I feel so bad. I feel so guilty. Like, you know." And so I just said, "Well, honey," I said, "sometimes what we do is we find ways of being able to learn lessons in the here and now and play those lessons moving forward." And she's like, "But I feel so bad. How could I do that? And why did you let me do that?" And she's going all the questions, 100 miles per hour. And again, my nervous system's already pretty kicked up. And so I'm just reminding myself to take some breaths. And she's like, you're acting like you don't even care. And I'm like, I actually care a lot, dear. I care a lot, but I also understand that you need support right now. You need me to be here for you. You need me to be steady with you. And I want to make sure that I'm showing up in a steady way. And so, again, she was just crying. And so I had a talk with her about men, and this was a Black man, and their pride and their desire to want to show up and to be a gentleman, and how I had learned that same really hard lesson. A couple of different lessons she's learning all at once. One, she's learning that, you know, if you're buying too many things, that if you don't have the money for it, you don't have the money for it, you can't get the thing. So that was one lesson. Number two, another lesson that my daughter was learning in real time is the kindness of strangers and how to be able to accept that with some grace, even if you might feel a little humiliated. Because she was like, those people probably thought I was bored too. And I'm like, well, we don't know what they were thinking for sure, but I definitely can get how that can feel humiliating. So that was another thing that she was learning. A third thing that I was really trying to send home to her is, particularly as a man, when a man does something for you that they're, you know, not trying to get anything back from you, they're trying to be respectful, we need to find ways of being able to honor that choice. That was the choice that he made. You made a choice, he made a choice, and to be able to honor the choices that were made. And if you want to make a different choice next time, you 100% can do that. But let's just honor that moment and honor the choices that everybody made. And so for her, as a young entrepreneur, she really wanted this yard sale to be so perfect and so great. So maybe looking in the future to find out for her next business adventure, how does she want it to change that? How does she want to use that lesson moving forward? I'm going to let her find out how she wants to do that as a young lady. Regarding this older man, I shared with her an experience that I had as a young lady. I was first handful of years in college, and I saw this man with a veteran's hat, and both my parents are veterans, and so, you know, highly have a lot of respect for those who serve our country. And so this old man was walking with a cane, and he got all the way up to the door. He was shaking, and I was trying to, it was at a gas station, I was trying to beat him to the door so that I could hold the door for him and just to tell him thank you for your service. And so I got all the way to the door. He just barely beat me, and he held the door open for me. And I will tell you, just like I told her, it was so hard for me just to tell him thank you, to let him have his honor, to let him have his respect, and just to say thank you and to receive that gift that was being given to me. And so I walked into the store, even though I could have easily held the door for this older man, that this probably made his day. And so I'm not saying that as a be all end all of, as women, cisgender women, we have to allow some sort of toxic masculinity. I'm not trying to say anything like that. I'm just trying to say respect people's humanity and finding ways of how to show up and do that in the moment. And we're not always going to make the best decisions in that. We're going to look back and find maybe there's something I wish I would have done a little bit different. And that's okay too. We can respect our own humanity and our own limitations in that moment. That's okay too, right? So, but in the moment, that's what I decided to do, to be able to respect this man. I said, thank you for him opening the door. And I said, no, then thank you for your service. He said, you're welcome. And it was just a beautiful exchange. But after I paid for my gas, got back to the car, I just cried. I just cried and cried at the beautiful gift that I was given. And so I shared that story with my daughter, as well as embarrassing stories where I didn't have enough money, going to the grocery counter and didn't have enough money. That's happened to me so many times. And I want to be able to help her to learn from my mistakes, but also to be able to learn from her own experiences. She's entitled and allowed to be able to have her own experiences. So I said all that to say this, that she was just like, and this probably meant a lot to this man. And I've been making a lot of money this morning. I didn't need those $2. Like, why didn't you just do that for me? And I said, how about this? I said, how about we take some time right now just to honor what that man did and that seed that he planted in your life, and just to express some gratitude. I did say thank you. And I'm like, I know you did. I know you said thank you. But I'm wondering if we could just even take some time right now just to pray for him and just to pray for whatever is going on in that person's life, and that things be well for him and for his family, for his friends, whoever's in his circle, that we just express that gratitude and we do what we can in that moment to be able to pray for that person, because we don't know what's going on in that person's life, where they may really need a good word to come forth for them. And so we took some time, we did that. My daughter continued to cry. Again, this is a hard lesson, y'all. This is a really hard lesson this morning. And I am saying all of that to say this, that as a parent, sometimes we have to make really hard choices. And I'm not saying, hey, I made the absolute 1000% best choice. For me, I feel like in this situation, as a parent, I made the best choice that I could. There are moments and times where our kids are going to be uncomfortable. That is not fun as a parent. I really try to do a lot of things to make sure that my kids are comfortable. However, I do believe that being uncomfortable is important for growth. And sometimes we don't grow the best if we're not allowed to be able to have some safe parameters where we're allowed to feel uncomfortable. That's a place where we're able to live, learn, grow, move forward in life. And so I'm speaking to all those parents out there, especially if you're a Spoonie parent, whereas parenting takes a little bit more energy, a little bit more thought and care and concern, as my dog is over here playing next to me. But I just want to just encourage hearts out there and say that parenting is not just a short game. We also have to be very conscious of the long-term game. I have seen so many adults in my office, young adults, who never were allowed to be uncomfortable. And I'm not talking about unsafe. I'm not talking about being neglected, but they were always so comfortable that they don't know how to grow. They don't know how to move. They don't know how to live forward through their mistakes and through their failures. They can't do it because they were never given a safe container to be able to practice that as kids. I want to be able to use my nervous system to help my kids co-regulate as they're dealing with things that are uncomfortable, but also as they're managing their successes. I want to be there for them for that as well. I also have seen so many folks in my office who were not given a safe container to be able to grow, in the sense that they were consistently managing so many difficult things by themselves with a very young nervous system. That's also something that I don't want for my kids. And so being a parent is a very difficult balancing act, where we have to find moments and times where we trust our kids enough to let them make their own choices, let them make their own mistakes, and that we love and we respect them, and then teach them to love and respect others in the process. So Thank you so much for this time that you've spent with me today. I do ask that if you've not subscribed to my channel that you would take some time to do that. I'm going to be going over more tips in terms of parenting, marriage. I'm not only a licensed mental health therapist, but I'm also a couples therapist. And so I'm certified in a couples therapy model that research has shown that it's been so successful in helping relationships, particularly when we take a look at our coupled relationships and our friendships and also in our families. And so that's something that I do for a living, but that doesn't mean that I'm not out here living life messy, living life hard, still making my own mistakes. But my name is Virginia. I'm a licensed mental health therapist. I really do hope that you would take some time to do something good for you, but also to take some time to do something good for those that are in your life today. Till next time, see ya.